All right. Thanks, everyone. We're actually going to cover a couple of things today. We didn't have a meeting last week. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about last week, but we're going to spend most of the time on this week. And please feel free to type in chat, or feel free to just unmute your mic and talk to me and us all together. But what we've been talking about is balance, expectation, and the law of 1%. And we're going to talk a little bit about, and I'm going to show you some examples of how to build personal creed document part 4. Now, I wanted to do our meeting yesterday. Some of you may have already done personal creed document part 4, which is okay, because it's going to be a draft. But most people miss doing it the best they could by a little bit. And I'm going to show you why here in a second. But I want to talk a little bit about balance, and I'm going to just give you a little thought about Aristotle. Aristotle lived hundreds of years before Christ. He was one of the great philosophers. And he taught something that's called the golden mean. And the golden mean is a principle of living a life in balance. We invited you to read, and it wasn't a graded assignment, but you were invited to read Elder Oak's talk, Our Strengths Can Become Our Downfall. Well, what Aristotle taught was that if you had a different trait or a skill or a talent, that it could get out of balance. I don't think anybody would say that courage is a bad trait. Likewise, I don't think anybody would say over here that caution is necessarily a bad trait. But what he taught was, if you look at, he used an example of an army. If you had an army and they were, you got to think, something you would see in the movies, like an army lined up on one side and another on the other side. He said that if you you could take some kind of a test and say, on my army, this is the soldier who is the most courageous. So on that far left side of the screen that you're seeing. So let me ask this question. Tell me what's good or what's bad, or what's the problem or is there a problem with the most courageous soldier? Any ideas? Someone be brave and talk or chat. What's going to happen? Go ahead.
If you're too courageous, then that can be out of balance and you could possibly get yourself killed. So that's why it's good to be courageous and cautious, because you're aware of the possibilities of what can happen, because you're thinking of the repercussions of doing an action rather than just going and doing instead of thinking.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Sam. That's exactly right. And Karina says they become overconfident and maybe prideful. And Regina says they are the first to die. Yeah, that most courageous. And if there is zero caution, that person is the first across the battlefield. He's going to take on the biggest, baddest dudes on the other side, and they're going to maybe live a minute. So they're going to be inspirational, but in the end, they're not going to help their team that much. Now, the most cautious one, you could say maybe the most cowardly, that's a poorer version of caution, is going to probably run and hide, overly cautious. They're going to be careful. They might end up hurting themselves because they're too cautious, but they're not going to do their side much good either. Well, what Aristotle taught is in the exact middle is what would be the mean. It's the the soldier who has the best blend of courage, going to go fight, but cautious, careful. That's the perfect blend. And that's where we would ideally be. But what Aristotle taught was that if you look at the golden mean is a range. And in that range is where you want to be. You might lean a little bit more cautious, or you might lean a little bit more courageous, but you're in that perfect blend. And so we had a little example last week about these 5 core dimensions: spiritual, physical, educational, social, and family. And the value of the law of 1% is that you can spend time in asking yourself, where are you at with your life? Are you out of balance? Are you too much one way or the other? And this is why I love personal creed document number 4. This is my personal creed document number 4. Here's my 5 kids. This picture was taken probably 11 years ago. This was before my 2 oldest children are married now. The black shirt boy is now 23 and a student at BYU, Idaho. Isaac's 14, our adopted son, and our daughter Emery's 12. So this is, maybe, I don't know, I got to be careful saying this, because if we were to boil down GS 101 into one, like, most important aspect, it's this. If I progressively live by my values and I spend time with the law of 1% and I remind myself what my values are, it's going to affect how I live. So here's my value statement for one of my values. I have 7 values. One of the values is I value being a dad. And I have an affirmation statement that says, I am the best father I can be. That's my value statement. And then I have these affirmations. I'm a good example. I play with my kids. I teach rather than criticize. I recognize and praise all good deeds. I support my kids in their activities, and I respect and support their friends, especially if they're good friends, right? So this is where the application comes in. If I spend time living the law of 1%, and I'm thinking about these affirmations, and you got to go back to left brain, right brain. I'm a good dad. I select I'm a good dad. I eliminate I'm a bad dad. I select that I praise and teach. I select that I support. I eliminate not support. And then what happens is life's going to happen, right? So these are old pictures, but I will tell you that I have my 2 youngest children, especially Isaac, have a tendency to be pretty mischievous, and they get into things and they make messes. Less so now, but stuff happens, right? And what happens is I'm going to come home and I have found out that Isaac has broken something. I'll use an example, okay? Our home right now has a fire pit. A lot of your homes have fire pits. And I've allowed my 14-year-old son with his friends to build fires back there. And I supervise it a little bit. I don't want to be like lording over them to the point that they're not going to enjoy their fire time. Well, what happens is I will, because of that, here's an example. I go out and I said to Isaac, Isaac, where's our garbage can? And this is a big garbage can that we keep out in the garage, the shop. And I say, it's missing. And well, Isaac very innocently used that garbage can to fill it up with some water to put the fire out. And it slipped and went into the fire, and it melted, and it was gone. And I don't know how he disposed of it. You know, did he melt it all the way? Did he chuck it somewhere? Well, the natural man for me would be to be mad and angry and to react in a negative way. Maybe some yelling. We don't hit, but some, once in a while, some profanity. Some labels that would be not productive. Why are you so dumb? Why are you so careless? Well, because I'm living each day with part of my personal creed document and on my values, when I see this happening, I'm saying, hey, I've practiced this before. I've scripted this with positive self-talk and positive vision, and I'm going to act in accordance with my values and not react in a negative way. That's the beauty of Personal Creed Document 4. It will be more effective in your life if you will actually live it. That was the fastest I've ever done that. We're going to now move to this part of your creed document. But any comments or questions on that? I think Brother Christensen does a masterful job in this book of teaching that example. I think he's talked about popcorn in the basement. If you live your personal creed document, you're going to react. And I'll end with this slide before we hop on another slide deck. This is what Stephen Covey taught. You're going to have stimulus, Isaac burning up my garbage can. By the way, he ruined a couple camp chairs by getting too close to the fire too. Well, I can, with awareness, imagination, conscious independence, I can make time with my creed document and my values to choose how I'm going to react. And at the end of the thing, Isaac's still going to need to, help me get a new garbage can, maybe a new camp chair with some money he's earned. He needs to be accountable for what he's done, but it doesn't have to be an argument, a fight, or a negative experience. Okay, I'm going to stop this share. I'm going to do a new share. Hang on real quickly. I'm going to hop to this one. Right, where'd it go? Did I lose it? Hang on 1 second. Let me hop on to PowerPoint and let's do this one. I thought I opened two. Maybe I didn't. Okay, gone. All right, this one. Why is it? Am I not seeing it? Okay, let me close that. Let's try again. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's do this really quick and then we'll be done. All right, so as you build your creed document, you're going to notice that some of it seems a little redundant, right? So personal creed document 1, you did beliefs. Personal creed document number 4, you're doing values. Does anybody have a good explanation? What is the difference between a belief and the value, or can they be the same, or are they the same? Any thoughts?
I think that they can be the same, but they aren't always.
Okay, excellent. I would agree with that 100%. Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, so Patrick says values are often based on beliefs. Okay, that's a pretty good segue to what I'm going to say. I think values are an extension of your beliefs or your beliefs in action. So Brother Christensen uses in the book, you might believe in a democracy, but do you value it enough to go vote? So what we're going to be building this time is you're going to believe, you're going to create, so your belief statement was, I believe in family, okay? Now we're going to take that to the next level. I value family, but then you're going to add affirmations to it. The affirmations are what you're going to use for your positive self-talk and positive vision. So the question though, and this is just a little sidelight, and then we're going to show you some examples. When my actions are congruent with or in alignment with my values, I have peace. Now, sadly, sometimes I don't live according to my values. I make mistakes. I'm impatient. Those things that I listed as my affirmation statements for being a dad, am I always patient? No. Do I always teach rather than criticize? No, sometimes I criticize. And when I have those slip-ups, then I feel anxious, I feel discouraged, I feel frustrated, okay? So let me ask this question. Why is it, I'm gonna skip this for sake of time. Why is it that we sometimes don't live in accordance with our values? Why is it that I value as much as anything in life being a dad or being a husband, yet sometimes I'm not a good husband or I'm not a very patient dad? I value my faith, yet sometimes I'll get lax on reading my scriptures or doing my ministering. So help me here. Why is it that we sometimes don't?
The first thing that popped to my head was the section of like balance. So sometimes we lose focus. So also talking about, I'm pretty sure it's the law of entropy, where like whatever we ignore, it creates chaos.
Yes.
So if we aren't paying attention, we aren't balancing our life, then essentially we're not living up to the values that we hold true to ourselves.
Excellent. So what you're saying is, and again, you just described it perfectly. It's like the heart of this book. If we don't live progressively, the law of entropy is going to take over and we're going to slip. Okay, good. Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Well, here's a little thing. I was a campus bishop once, and this was shared by another bishop, and I used it probably every week when I was a bishop. And what we have is we have life, right? Today I woke up, new day, and it's been good. It's super warm in Rexburg. I've been out mowing the lawn. Life is good. Well, sometimes we have these triggers, and these triggers could be a negative thought. It could be, and just because it's a challenge some have, I'm going to use pornography as an example. I've come back from mowing the lawn. I have my computer. I have some free time. I'm going to check news. I'm going to check Facebook. I'm going to check whatever. Well, I have a thought that, or it could be a pop-up, or it could be an ad, or it could be, they have these things at the bottom of the news places you go to that are ads that say, click on this and click on that. Well, this could be a thought followed by another thought, followed by another one. And if I'm not careful, these triggers could lead me to slipping. Well, one of my values is living a pure life. Well, if I participate in something that's impure, if I get too much into this narrow gap, this almost a tunnel, then I might slip. And if I slip, then life is opening up again. I'm now back. I got to finish the lawn, but I'm now mowing the lawn with a heavy dose of guilt. It could be a pet peeve I have with one of my kids or my wife, and there's that trigger. It's like, oh, dang. And then there's another trigger, and pretty soon I'm saying something I shouldn't. I have an argument with my wife, and then I go back out to finish the lawn or do whatever thing, and I now have life with guilt. So the question is, what do we do with these triggers? And I'm going to use this acronym. I'll just put it all up. I have found, the acronym is BLAST. I have found that when I'm bored, lonely, angry, stressed, or tired, maybe just one of these, but sometimes I'm all of these. I'm bored, I'm lonely, I'm angry, I'm stressed, I'm tired. I have less capacity to like say no to whatever these triggers are. So and I'll just do this for the sake of time. My advice when people have this is, first of all, try not to be any of these, right? You can be active living your values and doing good things. Be with good people, even if it's online, as we're quarantining. Work on not being angry. That's a talent. Work on some stress management things and get enough sleep, right? But if I'm having these triggers, my go-to thing, and it's very much acceptance commitment therapy, is think about a value that I have and act on that value. Have a to-do list that's value-based. We talked about STAR with the A squared a couple times ago. Go to your scriptures, serve somebody, send a note, be grateful, okay? And that to-do list can help you bypass that. All right, so let's talk about, I'm going to skip this for the sake of time. We've actually done Brother Christensen stuff before. Oh, no, skip. All right. I just gave away the whole thing here. So what you're going to do with your personal creed document part 4 is you're going to write a list of values. There's no set number. I wouldn't do 2 and I wouldn't do 20. I think, a good yardstick would be 6 to 10, 6 to 8. I have 7 on my list. And the value statement is going to be, I value being a father, or I value my health, I value service, I value the church, I value my spouse, I value something. And then you're going to write some affirmation statements. The affirmation statements are the script that you're going to use as part of your Law of 1%. So here's an example, okay? I value others could be your value statement. Okay, here's an example of an affirmation. Affirmation should be present, positive, and concrete. Okay, so I want your help on this one. Here's an example of a value statement. I am not mean. Okay? Good, bad, could it be better? Help me on this one. Think of present, positive, and concrete. Okay, so Karina says the negative is confusing and not as concise as it could be. All right, thank you, Karina. You're exactly right. Here's another example. So I'm going to go one step further. I try to be kind. Help me with this one. Go ahead.
That one's not concrete.
Okay, excellent. It's a maybe. Okay, I might be kind. I try to be kind. Okay, I will be kind. Not present, Marley. Awesome. Thank you. I am kind. That's where you want to be. Okay. Not too long. And I'm actually going to show you some examples that I think I actually need to spend the time to reinsert because these are older ones, but I'll use a couple of them as an example. Okay. So here's an example. Okay. My values: faith, relationships, agency, and happiness. Okay. I think those are great values, and I'm going to hammer this one just a little bit. My faith in my Savior, Jesus Christ, gives me great strength. It gives me an assurance. I highly value the relationships. My recommendation, if I were doing this one, and I need to give you some examples, I'm going to give you one in a minute, is these are too long, and they're kind of bundled together. Okay? I would say I have faith in my Savior. I believe in him. I do my part. I am faithful. Okay. If I was to take that top one, that's what I would do. Okay. Next. Oops, I got to move this. Okay. Next example. Okay. Now this one's closer. Okay. I'm going to just focus on my marriage on this one. Okay. He values his marriage, his friendships, his physical health, his ability to work, his membership in the church, and his teachers. Okay. So if you look at my marriage, okay, I am a loving husband. I would split this into two. I am a caring husband. Help me on bullet number 2. I readily admit when I am wrong and ask forgiveness when I need to. How could you do that one in an I am statement? The third one is easy. I'm grateful for my spouse. Okay, I'm grateful for my wife. Okay, I am humble. Okay, excellent.
I am teachable.
I am teachable. Excellent. Okay, so I think we'll do one more. I think you're going to be able to get the point. This one's actually from a fellow teacher in the course. She's not teaching anymore, but she lists a few. Okay, if you look at family, let's look at that one. Okay, I place motherhood as my top priority. Okay, I think that's fine. It's not that long, and it's positive, present tense, and concrete. But if you look at I will be a better wife, it's got the will be part. Okay, I am a great wife. I can tell you how this is. This is President Hinckley. This is many years old. Education. I follow the prophet. Great. I am prepared for the lessons I have is good. Okay, oops, hit one off of that. So are there any questions about this part of your personal creed document?
I have one small question. Would you say that, like, if you were to put in something like, I make an effort to be a good wife, like, would that be good? Or would you say, or like, I make an effort to learn the gospel?
Yeah.
Or something
So
like that.
if you use the present, positive, and concrete, I make is present, effort is positive, and it's concrete, and to be a good wife, yeah. So yes, I would say that meets the standard.
Okay.
Try to avoid, I will try, I am not, I hope to. And again, this isn't, the key is, and again, this is very much going back to psychocybernetics and what we talked about earlier. What follows I am follows me. I would try to make everyone as short as you can and with a positive I am statement, or just making sure it meets that standard. Because, and if you said, I'll try, you're still reminding yourself with your law of 1% time that you're going to try to be a better person. It's still going to be productive. But if you want to have the most oomph with your personal creed document, if it's an I am statement or something like an I am statement, and you don't need to have 10 affirmations. I would have 3 to 5. And if you can pull it off with one or with a couple, fine, that's fine too, right? Simple, shorter, powerful. And if you go back to what Clayton Christensen taught, if you believe your value and you believe in those affirmation statements and you're with it, when I come home and I see that Isaac's, popped his back tire on his bike for the 10th time this summer. And I know he's 6'4", 210 pounds, and he rides his bike hard. And we bought him an expensive bike. And I'm tired of going and buying a tube. I'm tired of changing it. And he helps me do it. It's going to be, wow, Isaac, you are rough on this bike. Let's get it fixed. And you do it in a positive way rather than me saying, swearing and yelling and throwing the bike across the garage, right? And I'm not saying I don't do that, but the more I live with my scripted values, the more I'm likely to live how I want to live. And I'm happier and I'm more productive. All right, any questions? Let's go ahead and end this. If there's no questions, I'll stay on for a minute as always. But thank you all. Just as a kind of housekeeping, this week is personal creed document. Number 4, values. Next week is mission statement. Next week is goals. The following week is gratitude chapter, one of my favorites. And then we finish up. So we got 4 lessons basically left, and then we're good. We're done. So, all right. Thank you all. We'll stop this recording, and I'll stay on to answer any questions that any of you might have. Thank you.